So adverbs of degree, adverbs of focus. So focus is basically whenever you want to shift the emphasis, right? Whenever you want to emphasize on a particular part of your sentence, wherever that is, right? You can use focus adverb to do that, right? Certain kind of focus adverbs like only, they have a tendency of, they're more stronger and emphasizer in the sense that if you place only before a particular part which you want to stress, you can automatically pull the sentential stress to that particular part, right? The emphasis directly falls on the part or the phrase or the word before which the focus adverb only is placed, right? So maybe not all the focus adverbs can be used like that, but few particularly only can be used in that way, right? So what are some of the focus adverbs? Can you name a few of them? Only is one. There are few more. Focus adverbs, no?
Just, alone.
Yes, just, alone. Alone is more of something that's used in the Indian context, but yes, alone can also be used. So just is one, even is one, right? Only is one. And I don't know if you have attended the session. So some of these have limiting capacities, like limiting qualities. Like you can use just to show a limiting quality. Like I can say my phone can just record the voices. So basically you're giving a limiting function for the focus adverb, right? Then even can be used to express shock, or again even can also be used to show limitation, right? So you don't have to get into the details of it, but I think at this point you need to know what are termed as focus adverbs. So some of the examples would include just, only, even, alone, right? Also, right? These are all examples of focus adverbs. Comment or viewpoint. Comment or viewpoint, you need to keep in mind some of the comment adverbs and viewpoint adverbs can overlap in the way they are used, right? So, but to have a sort of definition about the comment adverb and viewpoint adverb, comment is something that is more loose in nature, right? By loose, I mean that it's more informal, right? Commenting on something or commenting on somebody is considered a little more less formal as opposed to giving a viewpoint about something, right? So viewpoint about something has to be from a more informed position, right? So when I use a word like mathematically speaking or philosophically saying or biologically, simple adverbs like biologically or physically or theoretically, right? All of these would amount to a viewpoint, right? Viewpoint basically means when you say a sentence or you write a sentence from a certain perspective, an informed perspective. Comment is more loosely held, right? So like a statement like, luckily he did not fall, right? Or disappointingly, he did not attend the conference, right? So these are all what you're basically giving an opinion about something. It's not in opinions are generally not very informed, right? They're more loosely held. So that's the difference between a comment adverb and a viewpoint adverb. Nevertheless, there are places where there can be overlaps between comment and viewpoint. There are certain adverbs which can be used both as a comment adverb and a viewpoint adverb, right? Can you suggest a few like that? Maybe one or two, if not, like if you, I'm not looking for a list, but do you think like there's an adverb which you think can be used both as a comment and a viewpoint? Anything? Think about it.
Outwardly.
So let me ask you something. So if you have something like an adverb like obviously, right? Is that a comment adverb or a viewpoint adverb? Is obviously a comment or a viewpoint adverb?
It's somewhere in the middle.
No, right. Somewhere in the middle, there's nothing called somewhere in the middle. So either you can say it's a comment adverb or a viewpoint adverb, or you can say that no, this could probably used as both, right? So obviously, when you say obviously, you were supposed to attend the session, right? If suppose that's the sentence, obviously you were supposed to attend the session. So is this like a comment? Am I using obviously as a comment adverb, or am I using this as a perspectival, viewpoint adverb? Is obviously a
Comment.
perspective? No, right? Obviously it's not a perspective. It's more like a comment. You're giving an opinion. Yeah, obviously you should have been there, right? So obviously is like a comment adverb, right? Say something like naturally. You have a word like naturally. Is naturally a comment adverb or a viewpoint adverb?
Viewpoint, I think.
So naturally is viewpoint, and naturally can also be, used as a comment adverb, right? Naturally, this is how naturally you should have taken your mom's advice, right? If that is how it, if you want to look at it, right? So this is one example of an adverb which can be used both as a comment adverb and a viewpoint adverb. So I can say naturally, this is the time for pollination, right? So in this sense, then I'm using naturally as a viewpoint adverb. But when I say naturally, you should have listened to your mother's advice. This is more like a comment adverb use, right? So naturally then can be used as both comment and viewpoint. And there are a few more examples like that. But to give you like a general understanding of it, terms like adverbs like obviously, clearly, or simply, or seriously, or supposedly, undoubtedly, apparently, honestly, these are all examples of what kind of adverbs? Comment or viewpoint? Comment, right? Yeah. So all of them are in a sense giving you opinions about something. So these are considered comment adverbs. Some grammar books, some illustrations may not consider comment and viewpoint as two different categories, but there is a difference, right? If you look at it closely, you know that viewpoint is a little more. It's about a bit more of a formal and serious thing than comment, right? Comment is simply opinion. Viewpoint is like a more perspective. It comes from a certain perspective, right? Right. So that's the difference. That's about adverb of degree, focus, comment, and adverb. Let's look at the exercises quickly. The first question: the juice was dash cold. I suppose this is a question for adverb of degree, right? The juice was
Very.
very cold, right? You can say juice was very cold, quite cold, right? Anything. The train dash arrived.
The train just arrived.
The train just arrived, right? The train just arrived. My work is dash over.
Finally over.
Finally is not an adverb of degree. My work is, you can say almost over, right? Almost is an adverb of degree. It tells you to what extent you are done with the job. So my work is almost over. You are running dash fast. Next one.
Too fast.
Yeah, you're running too fast. Yeah, too can also be used here. The book was dash interesting.
Very interesting.
Very interesting, quite interesting, rather interesting, right? Rather is also a word that you can use. That buildings is dash old.
Quite
That
old.
building
Too
is
old.
dash old. Yes, very old, quite old, rather old. Okay. Seventh one, she's walking dash slow.
She's walking so slow. Very slow.
So slow. Okay. So is also, yes, a good choice. You can say so slow, too slow. Okay. Eighth one, dash. Now there's a comma there. Okay. Dash. We could send astronauts to Mars. Dash. We could send astronauts to Mars. So comment adverbs and viewpoint adverbs, they have another name, right? Comment and viewpoint adverbs is the name given based on the function of that particular, function in the sense, in the way it is, semantically, right? How meaning wise, how they can be used in a sentence. Based on that, they are called comment or viewpoint adverbs. Grammatically, if you look at it, if you have paid attention to the lecture on adverbs, you know that they've also categorized it into one other type of adverb. It's called sentence adverb, right? If you remember. So sentence adverb, they take the whole of the sentence that follows it under its ambit. In case of comment and viewpoint adverbs, we see that most of the times these adverbs, they sit in the beginning of the sentence like this, in this case, right? Which was the sentence? Sentence number 8. Dash, comma, we could send astronauts to Mars. So viewpoint and comment adverbs, structurally, they're usually present in the beginning of a sentence, just like a sentence adverb. Okay. So, right, that is about the structural placement. But what could you use to fill up this blank? Dash, we could send astronauts to Mars. Can you use a comment adverb here?
It looks more viewpoint.
Not possible, right? You're trying to formulate something, postulate something. So whatever you're going to use there, you'll have to use or rather, to put the other way, whatever you use there will be a viewpoint adverb for sure. What can that be? We can say things like, if you're not getting the exact thing, then you're also trying. When I say that you're trying to postulate, which means I'm trying to theorize. I can say, theoretically speaking, we could send astronauts to Mars, or I can simply say, theoretically, we could send astronauts to Mars, right? Both the usage, theoretically and theoretically speaking, both are viewpoint adverbs. Okay, there could be more, phrases or words that can fill in. That is just that nothing comes to me as of now. Ninth one, dash, we are lost. Dash, we are lost, sorry. So will you use a viewpoint adverb or a comment adverb here?
Comment, for sure.
Comment, right? So what can you use here? Unfortunately, right? That's a very common comment adverb that you use. Unfortunately, we are lost. Okay. Right. Next one. We have dash found the key. We have dash found the key.
We have finally found the key.
We have finally found the key. But if you're using a comment adverb, then finally is not a comment adverb. We have luckily found the key. Right? You can say we have luckily found the key. Okay, next one. The 11th one, dash, she showed up late again.
Obviously, she showed up late again.
Obviously. And there are several options possible there. You can say, obviously, she showed up late again. You can say, disappointingly, she showed up late again. Wrongly, she showed up late again. Yes, anything that fits in the blank as a comment can be used there. Okay. 12th, she dash submitted to the jury. She dash submitted to the jury.
Fortunately.
Sorry?
Fortunately.
Fortunately, she fortunately submitted to the jury. Okay. Can you see if you can come up with something better? It is not wrong. You can say that.
Officially.
Officially. She officially submitted to the jury?
That doesn't make sense.
No. Try, think about it. So it is what you can do is, you can have some of these adverbs which are very commonly used, a list of it handy so that, you can, and just to tell you a little bit more about it, when you're looking for common adverbs, it's better that you look at the kind of adverbs which are used for opinions, right? So you can just go on Google for adverbs indicating opinion, right? So it will give you a list and you can make a good choice or selection of some of the words that you think will uh, go into the sentences like this, right? With fit sentences like this. And when you do that, you need to remember that there would be more both positive adverbs of comment and would be negative adverbs of comment, right? So it can have like a short list. No, don't go for like a very lengthy thing. Something that you read and you feel like, this is a very commonly used thing. You can make a list of that. So you for this blank, you can say something like she honestly submitted to the jury, right? She
Yes.
honestly submitted to the jury. Anything else that you can come up with? I used honestly because there is also the use of, right? Sometimes you get clue from the context of the sentence, right? There are other elements in the sentence which can tell you what sort of words can be used in such a situation, right?
Yes.
So you can think along that lines. Even if you're good enough with the language, then context is enough for you. But in case you're just beginning to use it, then short lists always help. Don't go and make a 4 or 5 page long list. That's not going to help you with much things. Okay, have maybe say 10 words. That's all, not more than that. Okay, let's move on. Uh, what's the next one? It's my phone can dash make calls. I think now we're talking about the adverbs of focus. Okay. And,
My phone can only
sorry?
or just only.
Only, right?
Yes.
My phone can only make calls, right? So only make calls, not do anything else. Okay. This is 6:14. Sorry. The book Dash talks about the newest inventions.
Clearly.
The book clearly talks about the newest. No. So say we are using adverbs of focus then.
The book only talks about.
The book only or the book just talks about the newest inventions, right? Anything of that sort can be used. Right. Then next one, I dash got back from work.
Just got.
I just got back from work, right? I just got back from work. Dash Sherin can do this work.
However,
Not however. If you're using, say, focus adverb, then
oh, focus. Okay.
limiting function.
Even.
Even, right? So even Sherin can do this work, limiting function of focus of adverb. Sorry, adverb of focus. So even Sherin can do this work. Hmm? He wouldn't dash carry his water bottle. He wouldn't dash carry his water bottle.
He wouldn't
Again,
just.
limiting. Even, and this is not limiting actually. This is basically even can be used to show both limiting function and also to express shock at something, right? So, or surprise for that matter. He wouldn't even carry his water bottle, right? So that's the point. Last one there, you should bring dash an extra pair of shoes to the trek.
Or you should also bring. You should bring also.
You should bring dash an extra pair of.
Will it be
Ah,
given like it's focus or comment in the question.
Yeah, the questions usually have that. It would be mentioned. You should bring dash an extra pair of shoes to the trek. Yeah, what would it be? Just, right? You should bring just an extra pair of shoes to the trek.
Yes.
Right. And so this previous sentence that we were discussing, she submitted to the jury. I have some selections for it. We used honestly, and alternatively, you can also use comment adverbs like nervously. She nervously submitted to the jury. She unwillingly submitted to the jury, right?
Yes.
She anxiously submitted, or she dutifully submitted, right? So if you look at the choice of adverbs we have, nervously, grudgingly, unwillingly, anxiously, right? These are all comment adverbs which are negative, right? Negative ones. Negative in the sense that when you use them in the sentence becomes negative, right? But beautifully, honestly, these are all more of positive. So all I'm trying to say is when you look at comment adverbs, you're going to have both the positive and negative for that, right? Okay, all right. I think that's enough. If you can understand this much, then adverbs should be fine for you. Okay, this is also an important one. Choose the correct verb form to complete the conditional sentences, right? How well are you doing on conditionals? You aware of the first, second, third conditionals and what are they? Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am, I did learn, but a few weeks back.
Sorry?
I do know the
You,
conditionals, but
you know the conditional.
yeah,
Huh.
it's been few weeks. I revised on them.
Okay, you've revised. Good. So conditionals are very easy, but it can look a little confusing because of the, different structural differences that you see within the first, second, third conditionals. But all you need to know is some basic things about them, right? So when you talk about the zero conditional, what do we mean by zero conditional? What do we mean by when are the instances where you can use them? If you know that much, then the other things they just automatically follow, right? If you focus too much on the structure part, then it could look a little difficult. But as long as you understand the function of each of them, it shouldn't be a very tough task, right? So, like for example, if I talk about, I'm not going to, give you any summary of what conditionals are. All of us know what they are. So they're basically complex sentences. If I'm to talk about the structure of the sentence, they're complex sentences of which one part is a condition and other is a result of the same, right? So complex sentences, and when I say complex sentences, in terms of clause, you should know that it would definitely have at least one dependent clause, right? One dependent clause and one independent clause. The minimum requirement for a sentence to be a complex sentence is having at least one independent clause and one dependent clause. In conditional sentences, you definitely have a dependent clause, right? And an independent clause. But in terms of function of a conditional, we don't call them independent and dependent clause. We simply say that a conditional sentence or a conditional clause has a condition and has a result for the condition, right? Based on the condition. So that's all. We don't have to descend more into a discussion on that. Types of conditionals, right? So types of conditionals, and what do you more often than not see in a conditional sentence as a marker? You have the if-then clause, right? You have an if clause always in a conditional clause. In the absence of an if clause, you have other words such as when and unless and all, which function as markers of condition, right? But the more commonly used conditional clauses always have an if clause. That is a clause which begins with an if, right? That's all. So the first type of conditionals that we have, right? Types of conditionals. What are the types of conditional that you have in general? Can we talk about that?
Zero conditional, first,
Okay, zero
second.
conditional. So what's a zero conditional?
It's like facts and
Yeah, simple facts, right? Simple facts. Can you give me an example of zero conditional?
like 1 + 1 is 2.
1 plus 1 is 2, but where is the conditional here?
No. If you add 1 plus 1,
Uh-huh.
it gives 2.
So if you heat water, it boils, right? If you heat water, it boils. This is like a classic sentence that is usually used in explaining zero conditional, right? So you're right. So basically, you just talk about facts, right? Something that is an automatic result of something, right? So if you boil water, if you what is that? If you heat water, it boils, right? If you heat water, it boils. Um, first conditional. What happens in first conditional? In first conditionals, you talk about real possibilities of something, right? So, for example, you have a sentence like, um, if the price of tomatoes rise, the demand will fall, right? Something of that sort. Okay, if the price of tomato or tomatoes rise, demand will fall, right? What am I saying? I'm showing you a real possibility with the help of a conditional sentence, right? Uh, so for real possibilities, when you want to talk about real possibility of something happening in the future, or something that can be a resultant or a consequence of something, then you use first conditionals, right? If you're talking about, you're mainly stating fact, which is like a direct result of something, if you some direct result of an action in the form of a conditional statement, then it is zero conditional. Now, second conditional. Second conditional is what? When you want to talk about hypothetical, unreal, or unlikely situations, right? So, for example, I have something like, if we had an oven, we could bake the cake, right? If we had an oven. So, what is your condition here? If we had an oven, then we could bake the cake, right? So, do you have it now? Do you have it now? No, right?
No.
So you're talking about a hypothetical situation, an unreal situation. You just, which is also in common terms called you call it wishful thinking, right? I wish, right? If I were you, right? If I were the prime minister, right? Hypothetical situation. So whenever you want to talk about an unreal possibility, a hypothetical situation, unlikely situation, then you use the second conditional. And what is the third conditional for? Third conditional, you want to refer to a situation that imagines a change in the past, right? This is again wishful thing that you say you have a sentence like, if I had prepared well, I would have scored good grades. So what is this? You're imagining a situation in the past leading to a different result of that change, right? So again, you're still in the past. Okay, you're imagining a different situation in the past and then the consequent result of that, okay, based on whatever change happened in the past. So if I had prepared well, I would have scored good grades. Okay, this is the third conditional. But in our common usage, right, in our day-to-day lives, usually the more common kind of conditional sentences are either zero first or second. Even second is not that very common, right? Mostly you have zero and first that becomes a part of the spoken conversations, right? However, given that our language has displacement property, that is, language, you can use your language to talk about things that have happened in the past and in the future and that's happening now. This is called displacement property. Given the language has that property, we have things like the second conditional and the third conditional to make your idea more expressive, right? But more commonly used variety of the conditional sentences would be zero and first, more commonly used, right? Because one is fact and the other one is something which helps you talk about real possibilities, right? So obviously then no price for guessing, those would be more common in use than the next two, right? The other two. Okay, so that is all. You don't have to discuss anything more. Yeah, of course, there are, I think there's also something called mixed conditionals, but I don't think you that is just there for the sake of knowledge, but it's again, I don't think something that you need to really focus on. Your focus for study can be just the 0, first, second conditional. Okay, don't have to go beyond that. Mixed conditional is fine. And expressions, right? So I was talking about sentences which may have some, expressions other than if. So sometimes your sentences may carry when instead of if, right? So when the earth completes one rotation, we have a day, right? So this is basically 0 conditional, right? Giving you a fact, but we don't have if there. Instead of if, you have when. So when is one such expression which can bring in conditional elements to your sentence. Along with that, you have some other expressions like unless, right? Unless he gives me the document, I will not verify his application. So unless can also fill in for if. Then as long as, right? You can collect the check as, as soon as. You can collect the check as soon as the documentation is over. So while they are not directly, conditional expressions, they can bring about flavors of condition in your sentence. Unless, as soon as long as, on the condition that, okay, in case, right? In case and all is very common, right? They can all be used instead of if in first conditionals, okay? Other expressions involve more formal expressions like provided that, or providing that, right? Provide that is more formal though. So providing that and provide that are also some expressions you can use to introduce condition in a sentence. Providing that is less formal. Then supposing, right? Supposing the guests don't come. Supposing is another expression that you can use in the second and third conditional, again to bring in the factor of condition there, right? Right, that's all. Some formal expressions would include usage of words like should, right? Should you find a lost child? This is again a condition, right? This is a formal way of expressing condition. Should you find a lost child, please contact the child helpline. Or expression like had, right? Had thus known of his story. This is again a formal usage. Then if followed by the subject verb, but that's okay. That is not as formal as you want to think it is. This was included in the slide because mostly these days we don't use the if were expression. Like if I have a sentence like if the CEO were to leave, this is considered a formal expression. This is directly, taken from the British variety. But these days we can very commonly hear people saying if the CEO was to leave. Were is not as important as it used to be before. Even was is fine in today's, modern usage. So you could either say if the CEO were to leave, the whole team would have to suffer. You can also say if the CEO was to leave, the whole team would have to suffer. Both are grammatically correct. Okay, no problem. Okay, that's all. You don't need anything more to understand in conditional, right? So we'll look at these questions then. And as we go along, I'll tell you what are the grammatical things that you need to remember here. So the first question you have, if the bus is late, I will be or I would be or was late for school. What do you think is the right option here? If the bus is late,
I will be late for school.
if the bus is late, yeah. So this is an example of a first conditional, a real possibility, right? So if the bus is late, I will be.
Or will.
Not would be, I will be, right? So simple future tense. When you're talking about first conditional, you have in the condition, you have simple present tense, and as a result, you will have the verb in simple future tense. So if the bus is late, I will be late for school. Okay, I will be late for school. Simple. Second one, I will phone Charlie from home later if I remember, will remember.
Remember.
If I remember, again, first conditional, right? I will phone Charlie from home, or I'll, right? That L is a contracted thing. I apostrophe L is I will. I will phone Charlie from home later if I remember. Okay, if I remember. All right. If I go to the shops, shop, it should be not shop. If I go to the shop this afternoon, I will buy, I would buy some chocolate for you.
I would buy.
Okay. I would buy, and why would it be I would buy if I go to the shop this afternoon?
I'll buy. I will buy.
Sorry?
I will buy.
Okay, why? If I go to the shop this afternoon, I will buy some chocolate for you. Is it a real possibility?
No, right? Like she did not go yet. Like whoever it
She
is.
hasn't went.
If they
So,
go,
yeah.
then
So
only.
more like a hypothetical thing, right? If I go, then I will do this. Okay. So then what's the answer? Not will. It would be would, right? I would buy some chocolate for you. Okay. Um, okay. All right. Fourth one, if I have or would or had enough money, I'd lend it to you.
Had.
If I have, would had enough money, I would lend it to you. If I had enough money, or what is the answer?
I guess had.
Okay, so which conditional is this? First, second, third, what is that?
Third.
Third?
Mm,
Second, right? If I had enough money, hypothetical situation, I don't. If I had, I would have lent it, right? So if I have,
but it
would or
also
had, you think? Huh?
seems like past hypothetical, right? Like in the past, if he had like
I would lend it to you, right? So that is your, I would lend it to you is your
yeah, yeah,
basic
yeah.
result, right?
Mm.
So this one is a hypothetical situation, which means the second conditional. I don't have it now. If I had enough money, right? If I had enough money. So let me just check. I would lend it to you. Yeah, this is correct. So if I had enough money, second. If I had enough money, yes, I would lend it to you. Correct. No problem. The next one, next sentence. If I can or could or will borrow my parents' car if I had my driving license.
I could.
I could, right? Again, because why? Hypothetical situation. If I had my
Mm.
driving license, I could borrow my parents' car. So I could, right? Okay, quickly we'll maybe look at the sixth, seventh, and I don't know how many questions we have in this. I want you to take you through some of the questions in. Oh, okay, just eight. Fine, then no problem. If there is any cake left, oh, sorry, sixth one, right? Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
I won't not tell anyone if you tell me.
I won't tell anyone.
I won't tell anyone if you tell me, right?
Yes.
Seventh one, if there's any cake left, I had or would have uh, or will have another piece. If there's any cake left, I had, would have, or will have another piece.
I will have.
If there's any cake left, I will have another piece. If there is any cake left, yes, correct. If there is any cake left, I will have another piece. Okay, real possibility. Okay. Eight, if you had three wishes, what did or would or will you wish for?
What would you wish for?
What would you, if you had three wishes, what would you wish for? Okay, again, unreal, imaginary, hypothetical realm. Okay, so I would suggest you practice more on, practice everything, but remember the focus is more on the zero, first, second, and third. Okay, the mixed conditionals generally they're a little out of focus for even theorizing. But the first, second, third, I think, and the zero, of course. Zero also people may not use as much because you can use a simple present tense to state that instead of complicating it with the condition. But the first, second, third conditionals are more commonly used, and even among that, the first and second. So focus a bit on practicing of that part. Okay. Last one
Yes.
here. We have figures of speech. Let's see how much of this we can do. There are actually just 12 sentences. I think we should be able to cover it for today's class. So let's check this one. You need to brush up on the figures of speech. The total, there are many actually, I think around 20 or 18 of figures of speech. So let's see how much we can gather from this one. So the first one you have here, she sells seashells by the seashore. This should be easy.
Alliteration.
Alliteration, yes, it can be alliteration. What kind of alliteration is this? Can you be specific about this?
Consonant.
Sorry? Consonants. And okay, consonants is agreed, but if I dig
Sibilants?
further, then sibilants, right? Correct. Sibilants. This has to be sibilant because there are too many sibilant sounds here. This sh, right? Sh, z, these are called sibilant sounds, right? Hissing sounds. They're called sibilants in technical terms. So yes, this is alliteration, and this is also consonants, given that sh, they're all consonant sounds. But to be more precise, this is a case of sibilants, right? So in the exam, if you just have alliteration as the option which fits, then use that. But if you have sibilants in the option, please mark sibilants, okay? Not consonants and alliteration. Right. Second one, it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. There are two answers possible for this one, but you can tell me. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. So two opposing ideas, put next to each other.
Yes, ma'am, not getting the
Correct,
the
right?
figure.
So this can be two. It could be either a case of juxtaposition, or you could also say that this is an antithesis. Okay. So two opposing ideas put together. It was the best of times. This is from Charles Dickens' work, right? Great Expectations. He uses that in his work. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. So there are two opposing ideas that is being put together, right? So is the case with irony, so is the case with paradox, but they're a little different. We'll look at them. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. You could either answer this as juxtaposition, or you could say antithesis. Actually, antithesis and oxymoron are subsets of juxtaposition, right? So whether it is an oxymoron or whether it's an antithesis, together they can be called as a juxtaposed thing. But juxtaposition could be the answer. More specifically, this is antithesis. Okay. My friend's pet has kicked the bucket.
Euphemism.
The bucket. Euphemism, right? Euphemism is the figure of speech which we usually employ to talk about, event situations or things which are otherwise unpleasant or considered a taboo, right? So to talk about. So in this case, death is an unpleasant thing and you do not want to talk about it. Hence, you use a euphemistic reference. Kick the bucket basically means to pass away, to die. Okay. If I don't eat soon, fourth one, I'm going to die of hunger. If I don't eat soon, I am going to die of hunger.
I think this should be hyperbole.
Hyperbole, right? Hyperbole. This is exaggeration, right? Whenever there's an exaggeration in your, speech, the way you present something, it's called hyperbolic sentence or hyperbolic expression. So I'm going to die of hunger. Right. So, although people can die of hunger, right? This is a real possibility, but not in this context. If I don't eat soon,
No.
I'm going to die of hunger. No, you don't die soon because of hunger. Usually, there needs to be a prolonged period of starvation for that to happen. Not in this context, right? So, we're not saying that this is an impossibility. We are saying that it's not a real time possibility given the context of the sentence. So, that is why this is hyperbole. Okay. Right. Fifth one, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Little.
lit out, right? It's a lit out. Why? Because you are making an understatement. So you, instead of saying you're right, someone saying you're not wrong, right? Uh, this is called making understatements. It's called litorts, right? So you're not bad, which basically means you're saying you're good, right? So this kind of usage is referred to as litorts. He was an onion. To understand him, she had to peel back the layers. He was an onion. To understand him, she had to peel back the layers. She was, sorry, he was an onion. There are again, I think, more than one answer possible in
Metaphor?
this case. Sorry?
Metaphor?
Yes, correct. You can call it a metaphor. Any other answers possible? You're right. The metaphor is right. Okay. Metaphor is the right answer. Just checking if something else is also possible. No. Okay. So why is this a metaphor? Why could you tell me why would you call this a metaphor? Just to try and contrast between, simile and all, right? So this is a metaphor because you are making a direct comparison, right? Simile is also used for comparison, but then similes make indirect comparison, right? So as red as a rose, right? So this is basically making an indirect comparison. So when you say something like he was an onion, he was an onion. This is metaphorical usage, right? Direct comparison. Okay. Next one would be I thought his movies were better when they weren't so Hollywood. I thought his movies were better when they weren't so Hollywood.
Metonymy?
Metonymy, right? Metonymy. So, what is metonymy?
Like using a word for a different a word.
Using a word for a
Mm.
metonymy is what when you so displacement, right? You use something else in place of another. But more specifically, what is metonymy? No. Use of the name, right? Use of the name of one thing for another, right? So I think the slides have the example the Kiwi is played well in today's match, right? So Kiwi basically referring to New Zealand's cricket team. What do you think the reference here is in the sentence that we have here?
Like
thought
so
it-
English maybe. So American or
Correct.
something.
So Hollywood basically is a reference to the American pop culture, right? So Hollywood is known to make a lot of American pop culture, obviously, because it's located there. So you're either talking about you basically referring making a cultural reference. You're saying when it was not so Hollywood, you basically mean when it was not so American or American culturally rich in that sense, right? So if you're not basic reference to culture or American culture to be more specific, right? So Hollywood stands in place of that. If I change that to Bollywood, then again it will refer to back to our country, right? So film industries usually they are known to project themselves as the face of the nation, whichever they are, whichever they belong. So Hollywood here basically refers to American values and culture, right? Okay. Eighth one, that strawberry cake was awfully good. That strawberry cake was awfully good.
Oxymoron?
Oxymoron. Yeah, very good. Oxymoron. Awfully good is an example of oxymoron. So difference between, say, something like an antithesis or an oxymoron would basically be that there in paradox for that matter, the in paradox you have opposing ideas, right? In antithesis, you will almost have a full sentence that is in contradiction with each other. But in oxymoron, it's just two words like bittersweet, right? And awfully good. Just combination of or a pair of words that are in contradiction to each other. So awfully good is then oxymoron. But remember, all of them fall within juxtaposition, right? They're all subsets of juxtaposition. It's just a structural difference. One is in the form of a sentence, the other is in the form of an idea, and this one is in the form of a word, right? Okay, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. This is, I think, directly from the lecture. So what is this? All animals are equal?
I think
Paradox.
paradox.
Yeah, paradox, right? So understand all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. It's a situational contradiction. Situational contradictions are paradoxes, right? Paradox basically deals with the situational contradictions, right? Okay. So next one, it was the first, ninth one, it was the first real day of summer. And by the time she came back indoors, she was as red as a tomato. Easy, this one is, right?
Simile.
Simile, right? Indirect comparison, as red as a tomato, simile. Then the next one, mine is a long and a sad tale, said the mouse, turning to Alice and sighing. It is a long tale, certainly, said Alice, looking down with wonder at the mouse's tail. But why do you call it sad? So, what is the figure of speech here?
I
Mine
forgot
is a
what
long
was,
and
but like
sad.
they're using the
Huh?
meaning of tail in two ways.
Correct. So, what is that called? It's called a pun, right? A
Yeah.
word pun. So, the pun is on the word tail. The mouse is talking about tail as in story, but Alice's references to the mouse's tail, right? Its tail. So tail and tail, they are homophonous, right? They have similar sounds, but have different spellings and meanings. So based on this aspect of this property of homophonous words, you have the figure of speech pun, right? The same spelling. Sometimes the spelling is also same, right? So, for example, the word March. March could be the name of the month, and it could also be the verb march, right? As in marching, right? So, the idea is you have homophonous words, right? The words which have same sounds arranged in the same order, but with different meanings. And this property of that word is used to, create word puns, as in this case. Okay. 12th one. I think this should be the last one if I'm not. Yeah. Okay. The floorboards groaned under the weight of each step. Floorboards groaned under the weight of each step.
Personification.
Personification, right? Why? Because groan is not something that you usually associate with things that are inanimate or more, to be more precise, non-humanly, right? So, not non-humanly, let's say inanimate, because animals also groan, right? So floorboards is inanimate, right? So because it has been grown, has been used to associated with or attributed to something that is inanimate, you call it personification, right? The floorboards groaned under the weight of each step. Okay. Right. I think, yeah, this is well and fine. Those of you who have revised, I think I can really see that you have revised. Fatma, I think you're doing a good job on that. But if you haven't, others who's listening, please at least go through the slides if you don't have time to be through the lecture, because it shall help you well in the exam. Okay. Anything else? Any question that you have, or can I wind up in case if there's none?
Ma'am, will there be audio question in the exam?
No, no, no. We don't have audio questions. We're done away completely with the audio questions because there's been a change in the format of exams. So no audio questions.
Okay.
That's all. Anybody else? There's Arpita and there's also somebody else. Was that Anuradha?
No, ma'am.
No
No,
question?
ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Then we'll see you again tomorrow. We have the final live session at 5 o'clock. So in case you have any persisting doubts, you could make it to the session and ask us the questions. Otherwise, I think we are done from our end. I'm also done discussing things. But keep writing until you can, or if you have any doubts, that is, right? All right, then. Thank
Yes,
you so
ma'am.
much, everyone, and all the best for your
Thank you.
exams. See you.
Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am.